Kanye West has been suspended from Twitter again after he tweeted an image of a swastika hours after praising Hitler and making anti-Semitic jokes in an interview. The American rapper was only allowed back onto the social media platform 2 weeks ago after he was banned over other anti-Semitic posts. Comedian David Baddiel, who's campaigned against anti-Semitism, says comments like West's can have deadly real-world consequences.
Beyond the Hitler thing, which is just, gross and crass and offensive, at heart there's this idea that Jews are somehow, and obviously this is what the Nazis believed, as well as believing that Jews were subhuman, that the Jews are somehow eating away at the fabric of society and are able to control and manipulate the rest of humanity in a way that makes them alien, but somehow also, the slave masters of the rest of us. And what that leads to is the killing of Jews.
David Baddiel there speaking a bit earlier. Well, I can speak now to Martin Stern, a Holocaust survivor who survived 2 separate Nazi concentration camps. He now works to ensure that the memory of the Holocaust is not lost. And we're very grateful for your time this evening, Martin. Thank you very much. When you heard what Kanye West had said and what he put on Twitter, it must make you despair.
It's horrifying. One feels sorry for the guy. He's an idiot in this respect. He's obviously very successful as a rapper. But, I used to be a hospital doctor, and you think of hospital doctors as being clever and ethical and so on. I assure you they're just like the rest of the human race. Some are very decent people, some are not. The fact you're good in one field doesn't mean you're good in another one. And I think Kanye West has fallen into a trap of making an easy assumption that maybe runs well with his friends, but that could have deadly consequences indeed.
Yeah, as David Baddiel himself was saying. Do you think part of the problem is Holocaust education, that it's not what it once was?
Well, there are a number of organisations and government efforts and the Institute of Education at the University of London all doing their best to improve Holocaust education. In my personal opinion, it's only in its infancy. We've been teaching kids maths for thousands of years, but Holocaust and genocide education is just decades old, if that. So we have a lot to learn. Just telling people what happened in the past is not sufficient. We've got to help people to understand to a much greater degree why these things happen. And, the simple view is it's the action of a few monsters who make everybody else behave badly. The truth is that perpetrators start off as normal, ordinary people. And Kanye West is probably uttering views that are normal in his social circle. And it just probably seems normal to him.
Yeah. I mean, if he was watching this, Martin, how would you explain to him the horrors of the Holocaust, touching on your own personal experience?
I don't think Kanye West could do this if he really knew what happened to my dad. My dad was arrested on a Dutch farm where he was hidden by a staunchly religious Dutch farmer and his family. He will have been tortured because he was caught armed. That was routine in those circumstances. He was sent to Auschwitz. He didn't die in Auschwitz. He reappeared in Buchenwald, next to the beautiful cultural town of Weimar, 5 kilometers outside this place of absolute horror, where he's recorded as having died in March 45. If Kanye West had some idea of what just happened to my dad, never mind the 6 million others, he wouldn't make those remarks. I mean, the astonishing thing is Kanye West is a black man. So he will have a back history in his family of slavery, of horrific maltreatment, and since the abolition of slavery, discrimination and other kinds of maltreatment, he has been on the receiving end of racism. And he's being racist, and he doesn't recognize it. This is not a problem of one particular group against one other particular group. It is a problem of the human race. And that takes a lot of getting across. This is where the education has to improve. But I don't think Kanye West could do what he's just done if he really knew more about that sort of history.
Yeah, you make your point extremely well. We know that 2021 was the highest year on record for documented reports of harassment and violence towards Jewish people. 2022 certainly doesn't look as if it's going to be any better. Why do you think we're seeing this rise? Well,
you know, we humans are tribal, territorial. You know, tell a Scot that he's an Englishman and he will bristle at the very least, even with such a slight ethnic difference. And Judaism is based on a set of ethical principles. It's not called ethical monotheism for nothing. And you adopt the behavior of the people you associate with. So there are things about the Jewish religion which keep Jews separate from other people to a considerable extent, who behave like normal people, and we are indeed normal people. But there are dietary laws and holidays and so on, which mean that we are distinct. And that makes us an identifiable group, and we're a minority. If you start abusing a majority, you're liable to get beaten up and defeated. But with a minority, you can get away with it. And the other thing is that Jews have been expelled from countries, allowed back into countries, have usually played a prominent part in the prosperity of the countries where they've lived. And people become jealous. They identify the Jews as some kind of separate group, and they attribute motives which are not there. It's very easy to do. And it's existed throughout the era of Christianity, and even before. Read the Bible. You know, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Persians, and everybody in sight tried to eliminate the Jews, and some people are still trying. You know, in principle, everybody is a racist. We're born that way. Our instincts work that way. To make it otherwise, we need education. And the education needs to be more sophisticated, needs to take better account of what psychologists, neuroscientists, sociologists have found out over the decades. And, you know, civilized behavior doesn't come naturally. No pre-human ever leapt out of the jungle and suddenly created a Doric column or composed a Shakespearean sonnet. It takes centuries, it takes culture being passed from generation to generation. It takes great thinkers. It's hard work. It takes a long time, and we ain't finished. You know, Gandhi, when he had this image of going around in a loincloth and sitting at a spinning wheel, arrived in London for some negotiations, and a journalist shouted to him at Heathrow Airport, "Mr. Gandhi, what do you think of Western civilization?" And Gandhi's answer was, "It would be an excellent idea." It's a joke, but it's civilization as a process, and we haven't finished.
Yeah.
And Kanye West has just demonstrated how there is a lot of work still to do.
Yeah, and he would have learnt a great deal, I'm sure, if he'd listened to the last 10 minutes or so. Martin Stern, Holocaust survivor, thank you so much. Really great to get you on the programme. Appreciate it.